Welcome back, babe. Hello, hello, hello. It's so good to be dropping back in with you again today. I am so excited for today's episode, but I just have to pre-frame that if you have not gone and listened to my episodes of my Greek men experience, 4-part series, then today is not going to make sense. Okay. Today is not going to make sense. You're going to be like, well, I don't understand. Where is all of this coming from? Right. Because it's a follow on from part 3 of that 4-part series. So if you have listened to that experience, you will have heard me talk about my experience that I had with different men over that season that I was here last year in Greece, but there was one particular that really stood out to me. And yeah, I want to follow on from that conversation that was had. So I had a beautiful conversation with two of my dear friends back in Australia, and it was so much fun. We had so much fun recording those episodes. And I didn't hold anything back. I went all in on absolutely everything. So, yeah, but I'm here today to give you an update on what has gone on since then. So, let's delve into it. I've got my journal here as well because, I don't want to hold anything back for you. I love to give it all to you. So, if you haven't listened to that episode, the part 3, I would definitely go back and have a look. I think it's off the top of my head, I think it's like episode 70, might be 71 to 74 or something like that. It's around there anyway. So go back and have a look and have a listen to it. But 7 months later, I hear from Mr. S. And so, this is so interesting because I have really been trying my best to get him out of my head. I actually can't believe it's been 7 months. Honestly, it feels like yesterday that we were hanging out. And I feel like a week before he messaged me, I was starting to kind of not think about him every day. So I was like, damn you, universe. I was just starting to get him out of my head and stop rethinking all of those beautiful moments that we had and just get on with my life, really. Anyway, he does listen to my podcast episodes, so if he's listening to this episode, he's either going to be amazed at my vulnerability or completely turned off. But either way, I don't care. I am here to share with you the story and the update because that's what we're all here for. And there's some really beautiful lessons that I learn when I have interactions with especially men in particular, because I feel like men, for me, really teach me a lot about myself when I have interactions with different men. It really shows me what I still you think you're healed and you think that you have nothing left to heal until you start becoming intimate with someone, and then you're like, all of your fucking shit comes to the surface and you're like, oh my God, I thought I was good, I thought I'd healed through that. Turns out maybe I haven't. And so that's what I want to share with you today, because after this conversation that we had there, I definitely went on a little spiral for a little hot minute, but we're back. I'm back and we're good. So let me share with you what happened. So I got a text message on Instagram from Mr. S, and it said that he had had some really profound experiences happen, and he felt like I had played a really big part and unlocked some energies for him, and he would love to share those experiences that he has gone through with me if I was open to hearing what he had to share. And then he also said, but I also know that you feel a lot with energies, and maybe, you don't have the time or the space or the capacity to hear it. And so if that's the case, then that's okay, and I respect that. Anyway, so naturally I was like fucking excited because I've been waiting 7 months for him to send me a text message. And here he was. So anyway, I was like trying to play it cool, and I was like, yeah, wow, amazing. I'm so happy to hear from you. And I would totally be open to hear what energies I had unlocked from our experience together. So yeah, you let me know whenever you want to chat, when we're thinking. Anyway, he's like, how about tonight? I was like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. I was like, that's fine. No worries. Anyway, so some time went by or whatever. He finally rings me, and we have a chat, and we're on the phone for, well, in total it was nearly 2 hours. I think it was like at least like an hour and 40 or something like that. It was a long time. Yeah, it was over an hour. Anyway, and so he, we just start off with the general chit chat of like, what's been happening in my world, and how am I loving Greece, and how's Crete, and what's my biggest thing that I love about Crete, and, all of that things, how's business, blah, blah, blah. And anyway, he goes on to share with me that he has had some really profound experiences the last few days. And so he's really been deepening his spiritual practices, and has really unlocked a new level of awakening, I guess, with what has gone on for him recently. And he said, and I really felt like I wanted to share this with you because I feel like you have played a really big part in unlocking these energies. And I was like, oh, really? That's amazing. Like, thank you for sharing that. And he was saying, I remember different conversations that we had on different occasions. And he said one conversation that we had in particular was that really blew my mind, was your ability to love on everyone, regardless of whether they've hurt you, regardless of what they've done. And he said, like, I really took that on board. I really admired how, regardless of what someone's done in your life, you still have the capacity to be able to send so much love to that person, because you understand that however they've treated you is a reflection on them and not on you. And he said, I've really tried to take a leaf out of your book with that, by loving on people. And he said, some things have happened, with my brother, and, business situations. And he started up like a business situation with a friend. I think he said it was a friend. Yeah. And anyway, it didn't work out. And he said, but I trust that, everything happens for a reason. And, it did get me into some debt, that situation, but that's okay. Like, I know that this is all happening for me. And he said, and I really feel like, you've really helped me see a different perspective on that. And I was like, wow, that's beautiful. Like, thank you for sharing that. And that is something that I am really proud of, I must say, for myself, is the ability that I do have to really hold a fuckload of compassion for people. Sometimes probably too much, to be honest. Like, sometimes I think my empathy goes too far to the detriment of hurting myself. And so that's something that I am working on, because it's great to have that ability to be able to love on people, even though they might have hurt you. But you do need to also look after yourself and protect yourself too. So I loved that was one of his breakthroughs that he had from spending some time with me. I was like, well, that's amazing. And I joked with him and I said, usually my clients have to pay me for those kind of breakthroughs, and you got it for free. And he just laughed. Anyway, so we just were having a joke and having a muck around. And anyway, he was sharing different situations that were happening for him. And he was saying how he had just recently done a meditation, and, he'd finished his meditation and he had come out to a team meeting at work. They're in Zakynthos at the moment, so they're about to start the busy season. And he said, I still felt like I was in my meditation, but I wasn't. Like I was still very much like in it, but I was very much conscious. Like I wasn't in my meditation practice. I was living my day-to-day life. And he said, I felt like I was still transcending. And he said, I remember my boss coming up and like touching my hand and saying, like, are you okay? And he said, I said to him, I don't know what's happening. And he said, it felt like it was an out of body experience. Like he said, I could feel my boss's pulse in his hand. And I said that to him. And he said, yeah, I can feel yours as well. And, he was having this really profound experience after coming out of meditation. And his boss had said to him, like, what type of meditation did you do, blah, blah, blah. And his boss, who is his spiritual mentor as well, his boss, Mr. G, is very much a very spiritual man too. And he said, I think you've activated your heart chakra and like you've activated new levels. Anyway, and he was sharing with me, like after the team meeting, he said, I felt like I just need to go down to the ocean. I just needed to like get my feet in the sand and ground in. And, I was grounding in, and, one of the other co-workers came down and, sat with him. And he said, I could really feel his energy. And I felt like, he really needed some love. And, and then he left, and the ocean was talking to me, and like this pillar of light was coming down from the universe. And he's like, I'm trying to make sense of it all. He's like, have you ever had anything like this? And I said to him, oh, yes, I remember. I remember when I really, really started to deepen my spiritual practices, how scary it feels, because you almost feel a little crazy. You almost are tapping into energy sources that you've never tapped into before, that you didn't even know was possible. And it's really hard to put the words to all of that when you're new to it. And so he's like the ocean was talking to me, and I'm like, yeah, like I hear you. And he's like, you don't think I'm crazy? And I'm like, no, not at all. Like I hear you, and I know that you feel crazy right now, but like it's part of the process, really just trusting and like just staying open to what's coming through. And he said that's exactly what my boss said to me, like just trusting and just staying open to everything. And he's like, I felt like I was seeing everything from a totally different perspective. He's like, I was touching the plant, and the plant felt different. And like, I had love for all of the team. And like, I really felt like my heart really expanded in new ways that it has not expanded before. He's like, for my boss, like I had a new sense of love for him. And like, everything just felt there was so much love in my heart. And I was like, oh, that's so beautiful. Like it's the highest frequency that we can tap into. And when you tap into the highest frequency of love, that's when you fucking manifest all of your dreams, right? Because love is the highest frequency. Oh my gosh, I can't emphasize that enough. So the more that you self-love, the more that you give out love, the more you're going to have this big fulfilling life that we all desire. So the key is just to love more, right? But because we all have traumatic experiences throughout our lifetime, each of those experiences has closed us off to love and has closed our heart. And so for him, like I'm super excited for him to be on this journey of like really tapping into this new level of higher frequency. Anyway, he was sharing a lot of other different things as well that were happening for him, and just other different profound experiences. He said, that he was walking around, but he was like having flashbacks of different times that we'd spent together. And he was like, I remember sitting in the cave, and I took my oracle deck in the cave, and, I was shuffling cards. I was with Bree, and we were shuffling cards, and we were pulling cards in this cave. Like, and he's like, I remember like those moments, and I remember you talking about, my king energy. And he's like, I didn't really understand what you were talking about, how you said that I had king energy. But he's like, I had this moment where I felt that king energy in myself, and I haven't felt that before. And I was like, wow, that's so good. You're remembering who you really are. And he's like, I remember like walking around the resort and seeing you sit there, and you were on the computer, and you were like on your work calls, which I was obviously still doing work while I was away last year for that 8-week trip. And he's like, I was remembering all these, I was having all these flashbacks. And he's like, I know that we had a connection. Like there was something special there. And he's like, I don't know what it was, but he's like, I felt it, and I know you felt it as well. And I was like, yeah, like 100%. And he said, I've just met this new friend who's an astrology person, and I was chatting with him, and he said, I want to ask him about the dates when you came here and see what that meant in my chart, because he's like, I don't believe that there was a coincidence that you came into my life. I really feel like you like really opened me up and unlocked me to so many new things that I was not even aware of. And I was like, wow, it's so beautiful to have a man that like sees me for me, right? Like, especially when I had, my ex was really closed off to a lot of this stuff. He definitely tried. And I think he tried from a place of wanting to please me. And he felt like that was what he had to do in order to keep me. And to a certain extent, like it was, because that is the man that I am wanting to call in, someone that is on a spiritual side. And so there would have been a disconnect between us. But the truth is that when you're trying to be someone that you're not, you can't uphold that. You can't uphold that personality. And I think that's what was happening for him. Like, my ex was trying really hard to see where I was coming from with my spiritual side, but I think deep down he really just didn't. It wasn't really the path that he wanted to go on. And so there was a disconnect between us with that. And this work is my life, and it's my life, it's my mission, it is part of what I do in my work. I teach women to connect with this deeper, highest version of themselves. And so I'm never going to stop this. And so it's important to me that I have my partner be really open and really understanding to, they don't have to necessarily be, into meditation and all of that, but they really do need to be super respectful and understand where I am coming from with this type of work that I do, because it is my life, it is my mission, and I will never stop this, because I know that this is a huge part of my mission and this life purpose that we get to live here on this earth. So it will just always be that way. And so to have these conversations with this man, like it just blows my mind every time I have these conversations with someone like this that has that ability to have that depth around spirituality. And so he was, sharing bits and pieces, and was really like, he's just saying like, I'm super grateful, for everything that you have done and taught me so far. And he's like, you do know that you've got a piece of me, don't you? He's like, whether that's like a piece of my heart or a piece of me, like whatever you want to say, like, you actually have a piece of me. And I said, yeah, I know that. And, that feeling's very mutual. Like, I feel like he definitely has a piece of me as well. And I feel like he came into my life to teach me some really beautiful lessons in what it looks like to have a healthy masculine in your life, and to have a spiritual man in your life as well. And the level of conversations that you can have and the space that can be held. I remember just different conversations that we were having in that time together. And I had never been so held before, like I felt like he's seen through to my soul. And so I feel like, he definitely came into my life as well for lots of different reasons. Whether anything happens, in the future, I don't know. Like, I'm trusting and surrendering in that entire path. I wasn't, though, and I'll get to that in a second. And yeah, but I really feel like the universe definitely delivered me a really beautiful gift of showing me, that the type of man that I do want to call in as my king is definitely out there. And so he was sharing, just different things, and he was super grateful for everything. And he's like, like, I love everything about you, and I love I love your existence. I love what you do with your work. I love everything about you. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. I'm like, wow, this is insane. Like, oh, wow, what do I do with this information? Like, it's just really was being in that present moment, just really observing everything, that he was sharing with me. And it's super vulnerable to share about your meditations, and because there is an element of fear of like, what is this person going to judge me? And he said to me, like, I feel like I don't have anybody to have these types of conversations with, other than his boss, who's very much into spirituality. But, he's like, it's just so nice because I know that you're on this path as well. And he's like, I know that you're further in front than me, but it's just so nice to like be able to have these conversations with someone that gets it and that understands and that can help remind me that I'm not crazy. And I was like, no, not at all. Totally not. And so, yeah, we were just having like just this, beautiful conversation. He was saying how he knows that, we definitely had a connection, but he didn't really feel like the connection was as deep as what I was feeling. But he feels now, after like tapping into this new level of self-love, I suppose, that, he could see where I was coming from now, with all of that. And we just had this, beautiful in-depth conversation. And it was just so beautiful. And anyway, we were on the phone for, I don't know, probably just over an hour. And we're just talking about just life in general and just spirituality and just lots of different things and different experiences that he's had. And yeah, it was really beautiful. Anyway, he ended up having to go because his boss was calling him. And then he called me back. And anyway, long story short, he actually had to go because they were going to do a team meeting. And he was like, I've just really loved, it's been such an honor to have this conversation with you, and thank you for like hearing me and answering my call. And like it's really beautiful. And he's like, I just truly just love everything about you, and I love your existence, and just thank you for being you. And I was like, wow, like, no, like, thank you. Like, it's so nice to be in the presence of a man that can actually open his heart up and be really vulnerable and share what's going on for him. And like, I don't know many men that can actually do that. And it's so breathtaking. So if you're a man that's listening to this episode, like, lean into that, because women fucking love that. Like, we are looking for that deeper connection with a man. And so I said to him, like, this is been my honor. Like, honestly, this has been my honor to have this conversation with you. And he was like, no, not at all. He's like, I truly, truly believe like this has been my honor. I was like, oh, that's really nice. So anyway, so that was all good. We get off the phone. He's like, I don't know when I'll see you next. I don't know when I'll talk to you next. But he's like, I feel like our conversation, is not done, but it's done for now. And yeah, he's like, thank you so much for talking with me tonight. Like, I really appreciate it. And I'll talk to you soon. And so that was it. And he gets off the phone, and I'm just like, just struck. And I'm like, what the fuck do I do with all this information now? And there was a part of me that was like, I don't know what to do with this. I'm so confused. I'm like, the guy that I've been waiting for to message me for 7 months has finally messaged me. He tells me that he loves me, that he loves my existence. Like, and it was like, when he says that he loves me, like, it wasn't like it was like a generalization, I suppose. It wasn't like him declaring his love for me, like, let's get married next week. Like, it wasn't like that. It was just like this beautiful friendship, right? Of like, I love everything about you, your existence, And so I definitely went down this spiral of like getting caught up on those words of what he had said to me. And I thought, wow, like, what am I supposed to do? Anyway, I messaged a girlfriend and I was like, I need to talk to you about something. And so I jump on the phone with her, and I'm like, I think I need to ask him. I need to send him a message. I need to ask for further clarification. Like, what does all of that mean? Like, we've just had this like epic conversation on the phone. I've been waiting for him to like reach out, and he has, and now like I'm just left hanging again. And she's like, yeah, I think you deserve that clarification. She's like, I think you deserve that. Like, the word love might mean something totally different to the word love to him, like blah, blah, blah. Anyway, and then I reflected more after I got off that phone call with my girlfriend. And I was like, if a girlfriend had said that to me, would I be making meaning of it? Would I be like getting so caught up in it? Or would I just be like, oh, that's really beautiful, And I was like, no, I'm definitely making meaning of this, because this is someone that I have not only an emotional connection with, but like a spiritual connection with. Like, I don't know what it is. I've never felt this before with anybody. Like the connection that I have with him, I've never had with anyone. The levels of conversation that I can have with someone that I like, I don't even know him, but I feel like I've known him before. It's the most strangest feeling to try and like put into words. I can't. Like there is no human words for me to be able to describe what the connection feels like. I can't even describe it. Anyway, so um, I sit down with my journal and I'm like, all right, what do I need to do here? And I think that there was an element of my ego getting in the way because I'm like, there's a part of me that does believe, there's a big part of me that believes that we will come into each other's world. And there's a big part of me that also knows that our time is not right now, that it will be later on. I'm sure of that. Like I'm very sure of that. But learning how to trust and surrender to the higher path when you know that this person could be a big impact in your life is really fucking hard to do because your ego really wants to get in the way. And so I thought, I think I need a man's perspective on this. And so if you've been following my stories, you will see that I've become friends with a beautiful, beautiful gay couple. One of the guys is from Australia and the other guy is from Egypt. And I met them here in Crete, and they've been back and forth, and they're actually looking at, maybe getting a house and settling here or whatever. But anyway, I was like, these are going to be the perfect people for me to ring. So I ring them and I'm like, I need a man's perspective on this. And so without going into all of the details, like I try and keep it short and sweet to the point. And I'm like, what do I do? And he's like, one of the guys is like, well, what if you know that this is someone that's going to come back into your life? Why do you need to rush and force it now? Why can't you just trust in the process and trust that if he's supposed to come back in your life, that he will come back in your life? And I was like, yeah, that's a really good question. I said, you know what? I think that there's a big part of me that it's my ego, that my ego wants to know. And my ego's like, well, just like, don't waste my time. Like if there is going to be nothing or you don't feel the way that I feel, then just tell me now so that I can fucking move on and get you out of my head. And which comes down to my ego. Like, honestly, it's my ego that's like not trusting in the process. It's wanting to be in control of the situation. And I know that whenever we're in control of a situation, like that's like just not good. Never works out. And so I was saying to Lockie, one of my friends, I was like, I think I'm going to message him and just say, look, I need some clarification. And he's like, yeah, you could do that if you want to. But he said, I think you know that he's like not ready for anything. And so you need to be prepared for whatever is going to come of that. He might be like, why is she complicating all of this? Like I just was sharing with her how much, fun we've had and, like how many beautiful openings and unlockings she has given me. And he's like, and now you're like trying to complicate it, like, which is what chicks do. I was like, yeah, I needed to hear that. I was like, yeah, I don't want to complicate it. And he's like, I think you just need to trust it, like trust in the process. He's like, did you tell him that you're going to Corfu? And I was like, no, I didn't. And he's like, okay, well, maybe you could like message him and say, hey, I'm going to be in Corfu, and, give him the opportunity if he wants to like hang out. Anyway, and I sat with that and I thought about that, and I ended up deciding against it because I thought, you know what, I am just going to trust in the universe. I'm not going to force anything. If we are supposed to come back into each other's circles, I am just going to trust that. And in the meantime, I'm going to keep my heart open to whatever might come my way. And I don't need my ego to be in running the show right now. I just need to stay in my feminine, stay on my path, and trust that if the universe decides that we're supposed to come back into each other's circle on a deeper meaning, then it will happen, because what is meant for me will never pass by me. And regardless of whatever the situation is, I'm truly, truly grateful for this experience and this friendship that I have with this beautiful man, because I have honestly met nobody like this man before. And so it was really interesting hearing, having this conversation with my gay friends, because they really helped me see it from different perspectives and really helped me see that, yeah, it was my ego that definitely wanted to be in control of the situation and not just trusting and surrendering to it. So that is the update, and that is where we are at with that situation. So we haven't spoken since. That was the last conversation that we had, and I'm just back to the drawing board of trusting and surrendering that if the universe decides that we're supposed to come back in contact with each other, that we will. Even though that's really hard. Even though that's really hard. But, if it's for my highest good, it will always come back. And so I want to share that with you, that maybe there's something that you're trying to force or something that you are trying to gain control over. Maybe what you're trying to gain control over is actually not for your highest good. And so what would it look like for you to trust and surrender and see, is this your highest self talking, or is this your ego talking right now and wanting validation and wanting to be chosen and wanting to be picked? Whatever the situation is, maybe you are interested in a guy, or something like that. But I truly stand by that if it is for you, it will not pass you by. And so, in the meantime, how can you just keep focusing on yourself? How can you keep learning how to love yourself? How can you keep your heart open to other possibilities of what might come your way? So that is the update on Mr. S. Keeping it real over here for you guys. I hope you have enjoyed today's fun little episode. If you had some takeaways or some breakthroughs, or you just want to come and DM me and be like, oh my God, then please do. I would love to hear from you. Have a beautiful day wherever you are in this world right now, and I will chat with you real soon. Bye for now.